everyone, and welcome back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe Retrospective, taking a look at each film in the MCU and seeing how well they hold up. Last time, we saw one of the most influential comic book films in cinematic history with Black Panther, a genuinely heroic story. Today, we look at the culmination of a decade of storytelling with Avengers: Infinity War. While Age of Ultron was still financially successful, its somewhat mixed reception led Marvel to try a different approach for the following two films. In many ways, Civil War was a test pilot for this new approach, and seeing how that movie was a great success, it only made sense for Marvel to use the same team behind it to make the following two Avengers films. Marcus and McFeely wrote the script for both movies, and the Russo brothers directed them with back-to-back filming. This process had been done in other franchises like Harry Potter with the Deathly Hallows films. With a number of characters playing significant parts in the movies, there was a lot of collaboration between the makers of the MCU films, namely Waititi's Thor, Coogler's Black Panther, and Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy. Because the films were made together, some placements for the characters were reserved for the fourth film, like Ant-Man and Captain Marvel, whose movies were being made simultaneously. Hawkeye was also saved for the next film to accommodate Jeremy Renner's busy schedule. Originally, Marvel had both Avengers films labeled as Infinity War Part 1 and 2. Later, they retracted the name for the two to keep it separate from each other, as they felt that the different stories should be titled as such. The biggest challenge with the movie was its substantially bigger cast. The first two Avengers films had a relatively small ensemble and only had a few solo movies to connect with. Now they had more than a dozen main heroes and countless side characters, all with a well-established history. Not to mention that this was the start of the MCU's 10th anniversary. They had to make sure everything went right, or all of their hard work would have been for nothing. Infinity War premiered in the summer of 2018 and became one of the highest-grossing films of all time. Critics and fans loved its homage to Marvel's history and the epic fight built up for a decade. With the Infinity Saga finished and newer, more extensive chapters of the MCU opening up, is Infinity War still big enough by itself? Let's look back and find out. The film opens with a voiceover on top of the Marvel Studios logo, which is slightly altered to celebrate 10 years of the MCU. The voice is Kenneth Branagh, done as a nod to his work on Thor. He sends a distress signal from the Asgardian ship under attack by Thanos, picking up from the end of Ragnarok. The Mad Titan and his followers, known as the Black Order, massacre the ship, with Thor, Loki, and Heimdall at their mercy. Finally, Josh Brolin can be in the spotlight as Thanos. His performance is perfection. Many see the structure of the movie as his story, and I agree. He may be a villain, but he is the protagonist here. The Black Order is essentially cultists worshipping Thanos as a god. They are made up of Ebony Maw, played by Tom Vaughn-Lawlor, Cull Obsidian, played by Terry Notary, Corvus Glaive, played by Michael James Shaw, and Proxima Midnight, voiced by Carrie Coon. Coon was pregnant during filming, so Monique Ganderton was brought in for body and motion capture, while Coon provided facial capture. Thanos tortures Thor to get the Tesseract, revealing he has taken the Power Stone from Xandar, which he destroyed. Thor believes it to be destroyed on Asgard, but Loki reveals he swiped it when he went to the weapons vault. They try unleashing the Hulk on Thanos, but he wipes the floor with him. Heimdall summons his remaining strength to send the Hulk to Earth through the Bifrost to warn the Avengers. Thanos kills him for this and assimilates the Space Stone to the Infinity Gauntlet. He tells the Black Order to retrieve the other stones on Earth and bring him to his home planet, Titan. Loki volunteers as a guide for Earth, but it's a ploy to try and kill Thanos. Loki's neck is broken and his body is tossed aside as Thor is forced to watch in horror. This is Loki's canonical death. No fake-outs or resurrections. This version of Loki is gone forever, completing his redemption arc. We'll talk about the other Loki another time. Anyway, Thanos and the Black Order leave, destroying the ship as Thor is left for dead. This opening sets the bar for how dark and depressing things are going to get. They even show that major characters aren't above being killed off. The stakes are higher than ever. The Hulk makes it to Earth, landing in the New York Sanctum, reverting to Bruce and warning Doctor Strange and Wong of the impending doom as the title card rolls. We then cut to Tony and Pepper, now engaged, talking about a dream he had where they had a child, foreshadowing his future in Endgame. Strange suddenly appears and tells Tony they need his help. We get a repeat explanation of the Infinity Stones, which is a great refresher for fans and an introduction for those who didn't see Guardians of the Galaxy. We also have some fun with Tony and Strange having a dick measuring contest. Bruce says they need to find Vision and the Mind Stone, but Tony says he went off the grid and explains the fallout of the Avengers. Realizing the severity of the situation, he goes to call Steve, but Ma and Obsidian begin the invasion with a bone-chilling entrance from their ship. On a school bus, Peter sees the ship and goes into action, while Stan, the bus driver, treats it like any other day. Ma confronts the group for the stone, with Tony making quips, like calling him Squidward. I kind of find that ironic, since Tom Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob, did the voice of Cassie Lang's toy in Ant-Man. Bruce tries to bring the Hulk out, but he won't budge. Turns out he's tired of being Bruce's protector. This is part of an arc for the character set across this, Ragnarok, and Endgame to give him the story of a standalone film within other movies to work around the rights issues with Universal. Tony suits up with some new nanotech and fights Obsidian with Wong and Spider-Man as Strange fights Ma. Eventually, Wong banishes Obsidian to a winter wasteland while Ma captures Strange and takes him to his ship, hoping to remove the Time Stone's spell. Peter tries to stop him but is beamed up into the atmosphere. Tony activates the Iron Spider suit and has it save Peter. He tries to send him home, but he sneaks on board with the ship with him. Meanwhile, in the reaches of space, the Guardians answered the Asgardian distress call to find Thor the only survivor. He explains the situation and asks for their help. Like with Tony and Strange, Thor and Quill also have their own dick measuring contest. They split into two groups. Thor, Rocket, and Groot go to Nidavellir, where weapons are made, to create the Stormbreaker and kill Thanos with it, while the other Guardians go to Nowhere to get the Reality Stone from the Collector. We then cut back to Earth, with Wanda and Vision now in a true relationship. They even let Paul Bettany appear in human form. The two want to stay together, but they realize they're in danger upon seeing the invasion. They're too late, however, as Midnight and Glaive attack them. They eventually corner them, but are saved by Steve, Sam, and Natasha. Steve's suit has the star faded out as he has given up the title of Captain America. His portrayal here is a nod to the character taking on the name of Nomad in the comics, though he is never directly called such. Natasha has a blonde look, a nod to her successor Yelena Belova, and an allusion to the events of her movie. They send Midnight and Glaive packing and take Wanda and Vision back home to the Avengers base. We then get a flashback to Gamora's childhood, where she first met Thanos when her planet and mother were slaughtered. He teaches her to balance a dual-wielded blade. This scene adds great depth to both characters and their relationship. In the present, Gamora asks Quill to kill her if Thanos gets her, as she knows something he doesn't. He agrees and the two share a kiss, further developing their relationship. They land on Nowhere and find Thanos questioning the Collector about the Reality Stone. Quill tries to be subtle, but the rest of the team is more direct as Gamora goes for the kill. She succeeds, though feels slight remorse. However, this is an illusion as Thanos already retrieved the Reality Stone and decimated Nowhere. Quill goes to keep his promise, but Thanos takes her away. On Earth, the Avengers return home but aren't welcomed by Secretary Ross. Rhodey doesn't care and embraces them, with Bruce and Natasha sharing an awkward reunion. They also explain that both Clint and Scott took a deal for house arrest, which is why they aren't present. Vision believes the best course of action is to destroy the stone and him along with it. Bruce thinks that because he's evolved so much, there may be a way to safely remove the stone and keep him. The only place they can do that is Wakanda. They send a message to T'Challa, who preps Bucky with a new vibranium arm. On Ma's ship, Strange is tortured to release the stone. Thankfully, Peter and Tony save him and send Ma into space. Strange wants to turn the ship around and go back, but Tony believes they should stay on course for Titan and surprise Thanos to get the upper hand. He reluctantly agrees, and Peter is made an official Avenger. Thanos takes Gamora back to their home, and we see more of his ideology. He truly believes what he's doing is for the greater good. He shows her Nebula, who he disassembled for torture, to get Gamora to reveal the location of the Soul Stone, which he tasked her to find years ago. She relents and says it's on Vormir. Meanwhile, as Thor, Rocket, and Groot travel to Nidavellir, Rocket gives Thor a pep talk to get him out of his lowest point. He also gives Thor a new eye. They arrive only to find the star powering the place dead. They find the giant dwarf Eitri, played by Peter Dinklage. These are some of the movie's best effects, with great camera angles helping create this illusion. Eitri explains he was forced to make the Infinity Gauntlet for Thanos. His people were then killed and his arm bound in metal. Thor convinces him to help make Stormbreaker, and they work to restore the star. Meanwhile, Strange, Tony, and Peter arrive on Titan only to be met by the Guardians, called there by Nebula, who escaped captivity. After realizing they're on the same side, they work on a plan to stop Thanos. Strange uses the Time Stone to see all possible outcomes from their fight, and only sees one where they win. On Vormir, Thanos and Gamora encounter the Guardian of the Soul Stone, a cloaked figure revealed to be none other than the Red Skull. Unfortunately, it's not Hugo Weaving. He declined to return, having felt his time with the character was done. Instead, Ross Marquand has taken over, making a great replacement in his own right. He explained the Tesseract teleported him to Vormir many years ago, cursing him with immortality trapped on Vormir, doomed to know all that comes for the Soul Stone. He says the stone requires a sacrifice, the one thing a person loves most. Gamora thinks Thanos loves nothing, but he knows he loves her. This is another great layer to his character. In his own twisted way, he still cares for her. However, he chooses his mission over her, and throws her down a cliff as a sacrifice. Gamora's death is the most somber and heartbreaking in the entire film. The pain felt from both sides is immeasurable. He retrieves the Soul Stone, now wielding Thor. Back on Earth, the Avengers head to Wakanda and prepare for battle as Shuri begins removing the Mind Stone from Vision. The Black Order begin their assault with bombardment of ships and the army of T'Challa. Bruce uses the Hulkbuster armor to help in the fight. The Wakandan army, along with Okoye and M'Baku, make the front line. They try breaking through the shield, killing themselves in the process. T'Challa opens the front part of the barrier to keep them from going to the back and getting Vision. Thor takes the full force of the star to forge Stormbreaker. I'd just like to point out that this moment is all the confirmation I need that Thor is the strongest Avenger, no matter what anyone else says. Groot uses his arm to make a handle for the axe, and they use it to summon the Bifrost and land directly in Wakanda to join the fight. Meanwhile, Thanos arrives on Titan, where Strange confronts him. He gives his backstory and motivation. Titan suffered from overpopulation. Thanos proposed genocide, but random and dispassionate. His pleas were unheard and the planet was destroyed. With the Eternals movie, new theories about his motivations and Titan's actual destruction have surfaced. They could very well be possible, but that's a discussion for another time. They fight Thanos, with Nebula joining them. They manage to trap and try and pull the gauntlet off his hand, with Quill questioning him about Gamora revealing her death. This rightfully upsets him, and he proceeds to attack him, breaking the trap. This has been a point of contention for some people who feel everything would have gone right if he just controlled his anger. However, it's totally in character for him. We saw how he lashed out against Ego after he learned what happened to his mother, so it's not as far-fetched as some think. Back in Wakanda, the Black Order launch giant ships under the barrier, causing Wanda to leave Vision unguarded. Glaive uses this to attack him while Midnight attacks Wanda. Thankfully, Natasha and Okoye back her up, and they kill her. Cap saves Vision and kills Glaive as Brooke uses the Hulkbuster to kill Obsidian. I know it feels like I'm just doing a play-by-play, but that's because there's a lot of action. They do keep a nice flow and momentum, though. Thanos and Tony fight face-to-face and do some heavy blows. Thanos eventually gets a critical hit on Tony, who he says he respects and hopes humanity will remember. Strange makes a bargain. Tony's life for the Time Stone. He realizes they're in the endgame. Thanos takes the stone and goes to Wakanda. The Avengers try to fight him, but he literally walks right through them. Vision knows there's no alternative and tells Wanda to destroy the Mind Stone. They declare their love as she goes through with it, killing him just as Thanos reaches her. He emphasizes with their sacrifice, but uses the Time Stone to reverse time and kill Vision again by literally ripping the Mind Stone out of his head. Essentially, Wanda's heart is ripped out twice. As he wields all 6 stones, Thor lands a critical hit with Stormbreaker. However, Thanos tells him he should have gone for the head and snaps his fingers, activating all stones. He is taken to the Soul Gate, where he sees Child Gamora, who asks him what it cost, to which he replies, everything. He leaves Earth as his work is done. Half the universe fades from existence. Bucky, T'Challa, Groot, Wanda, Sam, Mantis, Drax, Quill, Strange, and Peter all disappear, with Strange saying there was no other way. Peter's is the saddest of the bunch. This is an extremely downer ending, and a very bold move from Marvel. To not only see our heroes lose, but to have some die in the process leaves the heart sunk. The film ends with Thanos on an unknown planet as he smiles upon his work complete, set to some of Alan Silvestri's best music. For the first time since Guardians 1, there is no mid-credit scene. There is, however, a post-credit scene. It shows Fury and Hill assessing the situation as the snap makes people fades before them. Hill goes too, and a scared Fury retrieves a pager and sends a distress signal. He fades as a send, just barely getting a signature Samuel L. Jackson F-bomb before he disappears. The pager reveals to be sending a signal to Captain Marvel, showing her logo and setting up her movie. And with that, Infinity War comes to a tragic close. I'll admit, I kinda had a love-hate relationship with this movie when it first came out. I loved the action and seeing the heroes interact, but hated how it ended and the people it killed off. However, in retrospect, this works incredibly well. It leaves you at the edge of your seat every time and is a perfect encapsulation of the MCU so far. It's the perfect anniversary story. While fans would have to wait a whole year for the next part, Marvel would give us a more lighthearted distraction. Join me next time when we look at Ant-Man and the Wasp and see if it still works to ease the pain. Until then, if you want to keep up with all my videos, then be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and check out my VODs on my other channel. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like and share it with friends. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.